and Moses was in great trouble of soul, and after he waited a while for his thoughts to come to him, he said, O king, this night thou and Leotanus shall reason with me, for I feel it incumbent, because of the pressure on my soul. When the three were alone that night, lo, and behold, it was the beginning of the dawn of light. And Moses' ears were opened, and he heard the voice of Jehovah, through his angels, saying,
Behold, O king, and thou, Leotanus, and thou, Moses, now is the beginning of my power on the face of the earth. Moses, my son, thou shalt take thy people out of the land of Egypt. And I will bestow upon them the lands of the ancients, even whither I will lead thee. Change not thy laws, O king. Let Egypt have her way, and let the Israelites have their way also.
The king said, to deliver 4 millions of people. Oh, what a labor! On the next day Moses walked out, going into the woods to be alone, for heavy trouble was upon him. And an angel of Jehovah appeared in a flame of fire in a bush, calling,
Moses, Moses, my son.
And Moses saw that the bush was not burnt, and he said, Here am I, and I heard thy voice. The voice said,
I am the God of Abraham, and of Isaac and Jacob.
Moses said, What wouldst thou? The voice said,
Go thou once more amongst thy people, and say thou, I, Moses, am come to deliver you out of the land of Egypt, and into an inheritance which shall be your own.
Moses said, My people will ask of me, By whose authority speakest thou? What then shall I answer them? The voice said,
Say thou to them, The I am sent me. And if they question further, saying, Thou hast a deceiving spirit, like the Egyptians, then shalt thou say to them, How can ye distinguish one spirit from another? And they will say, Whoso laboureth for himself will deceive us. And thou shalt say to them, Whosoever hath faith in Jehovah, let him give up all, even as I do, and let them follow me. For if a multitude go forth in faith in the Father, then will the Father provide unto them. For this is the meaning of faith, from which ye were named Israelites.
So Moses and his brother, Aaron, traveled about in the land of Egypt, calling together Rabban families, explaining to them, and urging the people to get ready, and depart out of Egypt. For 3 years they thus labored, and it became known far and near that the project was on foot. And the oracles of the Egyptians prophesied that when the Israelites were once out of the country they would unite with the kingdoms whereto Moses had been ambassador, and then return, and overpower the Egyptians. And in order to stigmatize Moses they said he fled away from Pharaoh's palace, because he had seen 2 men, an Egyptian, and an Israelite, fighting, and that Moses slew the Egyptian, and buried him in the sand. And the recorders thus entered the report in the recorder's house. Moses was of tender heart, and he inquired of the Great Spirit, saying, Will ever a voice of justice speak in my behalf? Jehovah, through his angel, answered Moses, saying,
Suffer thy enemies to put on record what they will, for the time will surely come when the truth shall be revealed unto men. Pursue thy course, for it shall be shown that thou dost still visit the king. Wherefore, hadst thou fleddest a record to state, thou wouldst not return, with the report hanging over thy head.
In those days Egypt was a land of glory, and of misery. Hardly is it possible for words to describe the splendor in which the nobles lived. Of their palaces and chariots 1,000 books might be written, and yet not reveal all. And as to the members of the king's court, so grand were they that many of them stood not on the ground from one year's end to the other, but caused carpets to be spread wherever they desired to walk. And as to their chariots, they were bound with silver and gold, and set with precious stones. Of the royal court and the nobles, there were 2,480, and they owned and possessed everything in Egypt, which was the richest country in the world. The next in rank were the masters, who were servants and tenants to the courtiers and nobles, and the third in rank were the Fathists, called Israelites, who were servants under the masters. And it was against the law for anyone to call a meeting of Israelites, or to incite them against servitude to the masters, for which reason Moses and Aaron violated the law of the land, nor dared any man to arrest them, because Moses bore with him the king's seal. Of the miseries of the land of Egypt, the half hath never been told, nor ever shall be, for they were of the nature of the flesh, and of such kind, that one may not mention them fully, for the history would also involve the beasts of the fields, and dogs, male and female, and goats also. Suffice it, the people were victims of evil spirits, and had descended to such unnatural practices as poisoned the flesh, which became inhabited with vermin, and they had running sores, and only evil practices alleviated the pains. The people were subject to entrancement by evil spirits, and the latter appeared amongst the people, taking to themselves corporeal forms for evil's sake, also eating and drinking with mortals daily. When Moses beheld these things, he prayed to Jehovah for wisdom and strength, for thousands and thousands of the Israelites were becoming afflicted in the same way. Jehovah answered Moses, saying,
Because of the abundance of evil angels in this land, it is impossible for my chosen to dwell herein and escape affliction.
Moses explained this matter to the Israelites. Jehovah said,
Moses, thou and thy brother shall return to the king, for he is worried concerning thee and thy labors. Behold, the nobles have complained before the king against thee.
Moses visited the king, who was sick with a fever, and the king was on his divan at the fountain in the palace grounds, and the men servants were forcing water. When the king saw it was Moses, he raised up, rejoicing, and called Moses to come and sit with him. And servants ran in and told Leotanus that Moses had returned, and Leotanus came also, and rejoiced to see Moses. Now whilst they were talking, the king was overcome, and fell in a faint, whereupon Moses raised him up and restored him, and then carried the king into the palace. In his arms carried he him. Leotanus said, Moses, my son and brother, thou shalt not more leave us alone. Behold, my father is old, and he gave his heart to thee, when thou wert a child. Be thou to him his son. Behold how he revives in thy strong hands. Then spake the king, saying, My son, with all thy wisdom, canst thou understand a woman? Moses said, Alas, O king, save the princes, I have not studied them. But why askest thou? The king replied, Leotanus had not said one word about the affairs of the kingdom. What is uppermost in a woman's heart, that speaketh she first, but, as to man, he speaketh first that which lieth at the bottom of his heart. I love thee, Moses, and delight in thy presence, but my kingdom concerneth me deeply. The nobles have complained against thee for meddling with their slaves, and for this I have desired to see thee. Moses said, The voice came to me, informing me of what thou sayest, and then commanded me to come to thee, for thou wert ill with fever. And the king replied, saying, If I should die before thou hast accomplished the migration of thy people, I fear my successor, Nuham, will make it hard for thee. Tell me then, therefore, how matters stand with thee. Moses said, Jehovah hath planned this migration, it cannot fail. For, witness thee what proof I have found, the Israelites were looking for a leader forth, even as I was named in the basket. And wherever I have gone, the rabbis and their families are acquainted with the matter, as if it were born in their souls. The king said, Everywhere the oracles declare against thee and Jehovah, saying thou art in the hands of evil spirits. Moses said, What are the oracles to me? To feel assured one is in a good work, this is better than oracles,